Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Under Construction, episode 117. This is actually my second attempt, which is why I'm hesitating on the intro. I was here for about 13 minutes, and then the game crashed, as you might expect, and I decided that that was not a long enough time to call an actual decent portion of an episode. I didn't really talk about anything anyway, so let me cover in brief where we are. I did some work. I emphasized the point of getting to the assets you want quickly, and not lollygagging in the menus. I said that I am really excited to get done with this section, as you might expect. I too want to be moving on. I questioned whether we had a name for the next little area that we need to work on, which is just on the other side of the tunnel behind the camera. Aside from that, there wasn't really much important that you guys missed. So, yeah, I didn't get to any of the comments, or either of the comments, I suppose, and I didn't even really do much interesting. And the past couple of weeks, I've done a little bit of work. It's mostly been simple grass, and as you might expect by the crash, some trees. So, that's good, but not great, because, crashed. Excuse me. I would like to get through the rest of this episode without a crash, but I feel like where one comes, another is bound to follow, and I have been... I played with trees a lot between last episode and this episode. A lot. And I think even before last episode, I'm pretty sure we didn't crash, and it sort of made me wonder why we didn't, because I had been fiddling with trees in between episodes. So, right now, I was, doing this. I was kind of surprised that it crashed, because it was it was so delayed, it's like it waits for me to make a video, and then it crashes. And it almost always crashes. It almost always crashes right in the half hour. Or on the hour or something. I don't know what causes that, but it seems to be, at times, relatively consistent. Maybe that's confirmation bias, because I'm only, I'm not counting the times where it crashed at 13 minutes like it did just a little while ago. But, I don't know, it seems like it's relatively consistent. Maybe I'd had it open for 17 minutes previously. What is Trains doing, or trying to do, every half an hour that causes it to crash? Maybe an autosave? Or something like that? But that's not how autosaving works anymore. So I don't know. I have a dream, and that dream is to finish the detail over here this episode. And that's it. Obviously, we can probably do more stuff. I did start grassing down in the fields, and there are some things we can do / need to take care of down there. We do need to also sit down and figure out what we're going to do with the area with the stumps. I'll save that for the last half hour of the episode, but I don't want to wait on that much longer. I say that like I'm waiting on you guys for it. I'm not. I could do it at any time. I can quit any time I like. Alright, let's squeeze this in here, and we'll also get something for ballast underneath this track here. I think, yeah, maybe this would be good. And then we need some coal piles or something. I'm wondering what else I'm missing around here. When I started doing this, I'd wanted to bring Chris in as a sort of consultant. Coal mine consultant for this, for the colliery here, but I ended up not doing that. I guess, I never really had the time, I guess, and here we are, and I'm pretty much finalizing it. I'm locking it in, I should say, because once I start doing this texture work and start detailing it, I'm not going to try to swap this building out for anything. It's going to be this way, and it's going to stay this way. Now, I think that's okay, because this building is kind of neat. It's a little too British, but it'll do. a lot of the coal mines that we have, and a lot of the mines in general that we have, are relatively low poly, kind of disappointing looking structures with the same thing here. That's the other thing. This can't handle the 100-ton hoppers. I do intend to have a real coal mine, like a built-in one, somewhere. From the start, I wanted to squeeze in the built-in industries. So, yeah. I think having that somewhere would be good, because it's going to be the source of most of the coal. It's going to be what's effectively an unlimited supply of coal, because the base industries replenish so much faster. I should say that they really don't replenish at a slow rate. You can't. The slowest rate you can give them is still absurdly fast. Especially for things like the forestry. And that means that we haven't, that we're going to have trouble maxing that coal mine out, and that's a good thing, because it means that we can just basically pull from it all we want. And so I intend to have one of those, and then I do intend to have some other coal mines that are going to just act as, well, more realistic ones. These things are going to be hopefully getting what's equivalent to the lion's share of the coal. Or the service, I guess. As in, there'll be a mine that's one of these more custom ones, and that will take priority over the built-in one for export, Because these things will have a set amount of coal that they're producing, and it'll be a relatively low amount compared to everything else. And that will be, I'll pull from there first. I'll say, okay, so this one produces 20 carloads, say. I don't know how realistic a number that is, but for sake of example, we can use it. This one will be producing 20 carloads, and we need 25. So this mine will be sapped for all of its 20 carloads, and the other 5 will come from the built-in mine, the one that's just produces at a crazy rate. So that lets us pretty much guarantee that we'll always have enough coal to go around. And it also means that we make use out of everything we build as best possible. Hopefully it doesn't mean that the coal mine, the built-in one, gets a pitiful amount of carloads for what it can do. But ultimately, since we'll have a built-in power plant, I don't think that's going to be a concern. We'll have coal trains running that route day and night. Those are probably going to be the kind of things where we might never see those trains leave the map at all. They will run from the coal mine, the main one, to the town with the power plant. I believe it's Clayton, and turn and head back. And these are going to be Malay run, long drags probably. And I could see they run one run, the engine comes off, goes into the roundhouse, another one comes out, hitches onto the same cars, and runs the next run. And we just have that with a rotation of 2 or 3 or 4 engines. Maybe running 2 different trains. Basically just seeing if we can keep up with the absurd consumption of the default power plant. I don't even know if that's possible, but that's something I think that is worthy of attempt. That's what I want to do. So, let's do some gravel around the back of this coal mine. Like I said, I think we need some piles of coal somewhere. We probably need a couple of small vehicles in the back here. The other thing is we might want some sort of overhead pipe, maybe? Because we'll say that some of the oil here is being used over there. But how are we going to show that? How about, what if we just put another kind of tank here? I need something bigger than what we've got, but smaller than these crazy mega big ones. Yeah, that's too big. Tank car unloading area. Oh, that's neat. We could use that somewhere, if we can. Excuse me. If we can. That's way too big. Yeah, it's not like we need water pressure, so we don't want something... It's not like we need pressure, so we don't need something up on stilts. However, if I add one more of these, it at least gives us more in the way of storage space for these sorts of... for you know, oil. There we go. It actually does kind of blend in. Let's see if there's anything else we can grab. That's way too big. It's kind of what I expected. And then that's really small. That makes sense. Yeah. Alright, so I think we're going to be okay with what we've got. Unless... That's actually decent, but that's too much. Okay, so we're good with what we have. Now, the other thing I need is some of this dirt here next to this. So we're going to need we're going to need some lumber assets. We're going to need some, like I said, trucks and stuff probably. We are going to need like a forklift or something, I would think, to get the lumber off. Forklift or equivalent. The other thing is, these guys probably don't need oil to run anything because, well, they're a coal mine. They should probably be burning coal. Anyway, let's just sneak along here with this texture. Yeah, so that's why we deserve a couple of coal piles out here. So, let's finish one thing at a time. Let's do this. Sneak along here with this texture. And we need to fill in the texture behind it, and then in this area here, we'll put some coal piles. And it is the 50s. The coal mine is probably less prolific than it was. So let's fill in a good chunk of this area, maybe half of it, and then we can grass that over. And make like, okay, so we had coal storage there and now we don't. Alright, there we go. So, grab this. Oh, you know what? Let's not use that on the old coal area, but let's use this in the other areas along here. There we go. Okay. So, there. There. Yeah. We gotta fill in this. We gotta fill this in. So, something occurred to me while I was looking at screenshots of some other routes that are being made, particularly Icer's. Because Icer is... oh boy, he's got some scale, and that's what's really getting me. I like the mountains that we have. I do. However, if you look out at this stuff, the elevation change is relatively little, except for maybe that guy on the way back. He's got mountains that go from here, and they just go up. They tower. And I think that's what we need more of. So, going forward, especially going deeper into the mountains, we are probably going to be looking at making hills that are much more consistent that just sort of go up and up and up and up, that make these very large peaks instead of what we've got currently. Which makes sense as we go deeper into it. But it's just something to keep in the back of my head. Like, I think the mountains that we've made so far are pretty, but compared to realistic scale, they're not it. They're not quite there. They need to be bigger. So, when we move on and do more VMR, that's going to be our goal. It's going to be something that's got to stick in our heads so we can work on that. The railroad phases, though, don't dictate that we do the VMR next. As a matter of fact, we're a couple of phases away from doing the VMR again, or at least making it farther. The next one, like I've said probably 100 times at this point, is going along the coast significantly further. Another probably 15 miles or so. And that will bring us to the next town of Bellington, in which there is another junction. So, in Bellington, we have the... I don't remember what I called it. It was the the mountain division of the Gilson Eastern, which is not much of a mountain division. It runs to a small town called Appleton. And so it runs from Bellington to Appleton. And there it meets up with a similar branch line from the VMR. And so you could run through trains that way. And there's probably going to be a scenario, and this is going to be one of these custom build ones instead of a you take the AI that exists on the map already and just sort of delete some of the commands and say, here, you human, do this. It's going to be more of like okay, this is tailor-made for this situation. Most of the trains are still going to be trying to follow their regular schedules, but you have to do something that is outside the confines of the normal AI schedule. Good luck. And that is going to be, you have a either freight train or a passenger train, and you are in Olive, and you have been routed onto the VMR because, for whatever reason, the line is closed, whether that be issues with the large bridges over the swamp. Maybe there's either currently a storm going on, or there was a storm going on, and the long bridges have been damaged. Where have I heard that one before? And that would mean that you have to detour out of the way. So that's probably going to be the basis for a scenario. It's probably not going to be a very easy one, because it's the kind of thing where, okay, you're taking a train that is probably powered for the Gilson Eastern. It's probably running Gilson Eastern power. Which is probably going to be like a Pacific. Maybe if you're lucky, it's going to be a consolidation. And you have to take a train that is probably far too heavy for the locomotive on the stretch that you're now going on over the VMR. So you'd have to come up over this, which that's a lot of 1.5% to 2% grade in there. And that will be unpleasant, without a doubt. So, let's do that. Can I put some other coal here? So, nope. That is too big. There. Coal mine. There it is. There's the OG. So there, we've got many kinds of coal. Actually, I like this more than that. Can I make these taller? No. So let's get rid of these then. Just leave it like that. Let's get like a forklift will be good. Hand forklift. So, put that there, maybe get some lumber. It should be the same old, the same old lumber stacks. Although that's not what I want. Let's see. I want it to look just like that, but that's not what I'm getting. That's a little better. The other thing we could add here is maybe a little shelter for maybe where you would park the thing. Let's see if I have anything called canopy. Alright. Yeah, this JR stuff, neat, but not what I need. Let's just add some scrap. You know, scrap. Alright, that took me a few tries. I don't know why, but it did. Don't judge me. Let's see, a boilerplate, throw that in the back. And some metal stuff. Those are floating. Let's put this boilerplate over here. That's weird. That's not really scrap, is it? Let's just put that there. Kind of wanted more scrap. Let's see. Put some wheels over there. That's probably good enough. What do you guys think? What are we missing? Maybe a couple cars. Let's see. Let's put this Buick in the back. That's my Buick. But really, these people are going to have trucks, so let's put this pickup in the back as well. Maybe one other thing we need is like some sort of administration building, but it's probably fine. Just be like a shed. If this lumber can be carried like this, it can be left outside like this. Okay, so let's fill in the other missing chunks then. Uh-oh. Come on. There we go. This is rapidly becoming my new favorite texture. It is very versatile. It is not pretty. And that is the best part about it. So, I might end up using it down in the fields for those areas that we haven't figured out yet. But on the other hand, maybe it's a little bit too dark for that. We'll have to see what it looks like. We'll have to really see what it looks like covering large areas with grass on top of it. Because I think one of the things that I said last time is that those areas, they probably deserve to have long grass and also some trees, but quite a few stumps. And let's use this gravel again, because it's pretty darn versatile. Let's fill in under here. Fill in behind here. Alright. That is good. There we go. I'm not sure if I want to get that corner or not. I guess we won't. That... Man. The grids, man. Okay. We need dirt under the road. We also need dirt to carry up the road here. I'm not sure how much attention we want to pay to the sides of the road along here. I did go along the highway, the part that we haven't really done, that's sort of behind us. That runs down to that little gap that exists because of the hole in the world. And I did start to clear it, or I did clear it of trees, and I need to add the texture under that. I don't recall what texture we were using, but I need to add trees on both sides for some of it anyway. Whatever, our focus today is up here. I think it's going to stay here. And this area can get just the regular grass. Because it's not like nestled in the middle or anything. Or it is. It's not on a tough slope or anything like that. Fill this in. I missed a couple spots on that side. It should either be gravel or dirt. One of the two. Okay, so we're going to need grass over there. Like spline grass. As for this area in here, I might just do it with a regular grass. Like under the trees grass. Because it's already technically supposed to be that. We're getting a little bit, I won't say sloppy, but simplified now. Because I definitely feel like I'm ready to wrap this area up. Not that we'll be doing anything different when we move on, but it'll at least provide us a lull from what we're doing. Like, we're going to get to do terrain again, and we're going to get to do track work again. And those are the things where it's like, I do look forward to track work, and I do to an extent look forward to terrain work. I'm not, like, over the moon about it, because it's still work, but it is more entertaining than what we're doing right now. Not that I don't like this place, but it could definitely do to... Oh, we got that. It could definitely do to be done. I could definitely be okay with moving on, but not until we're finished are we allowed to move on. We don't want to have... We don't want this to be like... Geiger Mountains, I guess, is the most recent time where that actually happened. Where we're not finishing areas, we're trying to do the whole map at once. And I feel like I've said many a time that that is a recipe for disaster. If you are doing that, and you actually are making significant progress, I give you crazy props. But for the most part, when you're doing a mega route, a mega project, you're gonna want to do it in bite-sized pieces. Unless you have crazy dedication and determination and too much time on your hands. Because without that, you're not going to be able to sit down and... I cannot answer that. Sit down and bang that stuff out. You're probably going to wrap up all the track work first because that's what entices people the most. Hold on one second. Oh, alright. I'm still going to fill in this square here with this, even though this is a more natural area. One of the things I also could do is add just a little splotch of gravel to act as a turnaround for this road here. I don't know why anyone would actually be driving down here anyway, but I did build the road. So. Yeah, that makes sense. That's something you'd see in real life. Ooh, realism. It's something to pay attention to, though. There are things that you will not consciously notice, and that if you leave them out when you're building something like this, it will look odd, and you won't be able to figure out why. So, yeah, you do need to be conscious of all the strange, the finicky stuff, not necessarily the stuff that is super detailed and time-consuming. I'm not talking like wires to every house and fire hydrants every 250 feet. I'm saying like this, where, you have a little gravel cul-de-sac at the dead end of a gravel road. It makes sense. It's where you would turn your car around. But when you're building a gravel road in trains, you don't think about that, because what do you need it for? And unless you are acutely familiar with gravel roads, it might never occur to you that those go there. It's just like, yeah, it's a gravel road, it goes into the woods and ends here. I don't know what there is to it. Yeah, I don't know what more there is to it. It's like, well, if you were to go down and look at that, it would seem like you're missing something, and you wouldn't necessarily know what. And I'm sure once you figured it out, you'd feel kind of dumb. But that's not important right now. What's important is, looking at something, and not saying that this will always happen, but if you're looking at something and the back of your brain says, hey, something's off, then listen to it, and figure out what it is. There is no shame in spending lots of time on something like Google Maps, just sputzing around, looking for examples of what you're trying to make. I have to do that at work sometimes. If we're building a traffic signal, and I'm not sure how to put the thing together, and nobody else is quite sure how to put the thing together, the next step is usually to go find an existing example and follow that example and see if there's anything that, if we look at, not necessarily to copy it, but to figure out what all the components we need are and figure out what arrangement worked for this. There are definitely some intersections that you can transplant directly. Like, okay, it's a simple 4-way intersection, you've got 1-lane approaches, so it's not like you have a left turn lane here or whatever. Okay, you put up the 4 poles like this and 8 signals like this. Nothing special, no arrows, no special signs. 4 crosswalks, 4 crosswalks, 8 buttons, 8 little crosswalk signals. It's not rocket science to follow that sort of example, but that isn't what most of the job is. People who want a single simple signal done don't generally come to us. We get it where it's like, okay, here is every signal in town, or 26 of them, and we're gonna need to redo them all. So how do we do that? It's like, well, this is an interesting one, because we've got intersections with 5 legs or 6 legs, intersections at weird angles, intersections where the buildings butt almost up to the road so there isn't room to put poles. What do we do? And that is where you go looking around. Like if it's a New York project, you go looking around in New York towns on the street view. Not necessarily the city, because things are different in the city. But, okay, hey look, this is a place where they did a protected left turn, and this is how they set it up. They use this kind of traffic signal instead of this kind, and they positioned it in this way. And it's like, all right, that works. Let's do something like that. It's relatively, I mean, it can be relatively frustrating if you can't find something right away. Something that might be decent to draw inspiration, as dumb as this sounds, is actually playing like a round of GeoGuessr. I know GeoGuessr has gone downhill in the last year or so, but that sort of thing where you get dropped onto just a Google Map somewhere and you have to look around, and that will help. It will, weirdly enough. It's the kind of thing where you'll get exposed to new arrangements of buildings that you hadn't seen before, for example. That happened to me. That's how I developed Adams, because I was not sure how to do such a small town, and I had a GeoGuessr around in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, and went, oh, so this is how you do it. You know, there is all this space. Yes, you have a small main section where all the buildings are clustered up, and then you've got, you know, not like several blocks of straight buildings, or even close buildings. You have a serious density gradient between, okay, here's the middle of town. In the middle of town, there are all the buildings. Like all of them, they're right there. And they're all the important ones. There's your post office, there's your hotel if you've got one, there's your union meeting hall or whatever, your Grange. And there is your fire department. And your general store. And that's it. And if you have one, there's your train station. And that's that. And then you've got wide open spaces because nobody lives that close to town, because the only people that need to go to the center of town on a daily basis to work are the people that work in the general store, the fire department, the post office. And some of those buildings might have residences included. So while you may have a couple of local, you know, houses that are very close to the town center, unless you've got something else nearby, like, say, a coal mine, like in Lionhead, there really isn't that much of a draw for people to live there. So you're going to have these relatively large gaps between residential buildings. Like, you'll have super, super low density residential, and then all of your non-residential buildings are going to be pretty close to one another. The other thing you'll have is super low density, well, you can't really call it industrial, but farming. You know, you've got these large plots of land. The people that are out there, they obviously aren't working at the general store. You know, you can't have 50 people working at a general store. So that means a lot of people out there are going to be farming. They've got lots of land. They're going to either have animals, they're going to have crops, and that's, you know, that's all she wrote. There really isn't that much to it. Adams is a little bit different, however, because Adams is a tourist town more than anything. I mean, I did want Adams in a way to reflect the real-life Adams, Massachusetts, but with Adams, Massachusetts being as large as it is, and Adams on the Tolburn Peninsula being relatively small compared to that, I didn't feel like it was a good example, and that's why I thought about doing it that way, which is what I had originally done, where the buildings had a moderate density across pretty much the whole thing. And then I decided, okay, we're going to do something different. We're going to have a gradient, a dichotomy here between, here is your area in the center, and then there's some room, and there's everything else. Again, Adams is a little bit different than that specifically, but that is what I gravitated towards more. The things you need are there in the middle. There's a little bit more space. But the thing that it did do in the end was make sure that there is a lot of, well, just space. Adams not being a particularly good farming town because of the geological oddities, it caused me to rethink what I was doing up there again. And so that led to, okay, we're going to cluster the buildings even more, and there are going to be even fewer places that are farther from the center of town, because there is no reason for them to be there. So you've got the relatively speaking, again, this dense town center with everything you need, and then not much else. The town of Adams originally had about the same number of buildings, but it was a lot bigger. And yeah, there's no real reason for these buildings to be on top of one another, but in the age before the automobile became so big and popular, there was no reason for them not to be, and there was an incentive for them not to be. You didn't really want to have to go that far to go to the general store. And if you are working in the service industry in Adams, which you probably are, you're a tour guide or, a hotel employee, cleaner or concierge or, whatever, the various jobs at a hotel, or a cook at one of the restaurants, or whatever, or just the guy who runs the general store. Everybody wants to be kind of close together. There is no reason to be farther apart, and in fact, the way that it is kind of necessitates that you're not. Again, we're in the 50s, the age of the automobile is here, but ultimately... Alright, you know what, I'm just going to do this, hold on. Begin. There. But ultimately, it doesn't make that much of a difference to, or no, it doesn't make that much of a difference yet, because there's no central planning being built around automobiles. There's no, there are no sprawling suburbs in the way that we know them today, in the way that many of us probably grew up. And yeah, those are hallmarks of the 50s, sure. But in a town like Adams, none of that would happen. None of that would exist. So here's Adams, just for reference, because we've been talking about it. So you'll be able to see how you have all these buildings pretty much in a line on the street, on the main road here. And then you've got a big wide open space, and then you've got these two buildings that are together. You've got this farm over there. You've got this camp here, which is, again, a distance from everything. And then this road, which is getting developed. But not really much else. Everything that you need is clustered on this street, top to bottom. You've got all your commercial buildings, whatever they are. Your gas station. Your meeting hall. Your other gas station. I don't know. Greenhouses, which this is a little weird to have, but I thought they looked alright. And there's your hotel, and here are your cabins for rent. And there's your museum over there. So, that is it. That is all there is to it. Alright, back to what we're doing. Adam's rant has ended. I'm not going to fill that one in yet, because obvious reasons. There's still chunks that we haven't completed yet. This area here, this needs grass. But we are so close, I can taste it. This area is effectively done. Lionhead is basically done. Once we hit the tunnel, then I can call it completed. Although, let's discount double check something. So, you don't have the multiple industry, you don't have a multiple industry. Less than great. That is something that we do need to put there and there. This, the coal mine, I believe, is its own industry. Yeah, I can see it right there. Just make sure. Whoops. Yeah. So, consumes... Oh, pit props. Wooden's pit props. Hold on a minute. Pit props. This one's built in. List dependents. Oh, darn. I bet you these don't fit anything. So, yeah. So we can have a small multiple industry that converts lumber to pit props. Also, this is one of these that's going to be out of control, but that's okay. We'll adjust that. We've already got a limiter on how much we're going to be using here, anyway. So let's throw down a couple of multiple industries. And I did explain that the multiple industry basic doesn't have the weird problem with losing its head when you're trying to do more than one queue. So, in a situation where we were doing something fancy, I would definitely prefer that going forward, unless something changes. I know Service Pack 4 is supposed to come out, and that's supposed to solve some problems, including the queued numbering, coloring problem. But until then, these are probably our best bet. Best hit. We also need one over here. As we learned from the olive branch, we want to put these guys towards the beginning, because the AI will try to run the engine over the industry, if it is at all possible. And if it is not possible, it is entirely possible that the engine will then push cars off the end of the track. And while we have the little buffer there to prevent that, the extra piece of invisible track, it's not pretty to look at, so I don't want to have to look at it. Alright, there we go. Let's name these suckers. Let's make sure we're working. Oh, damn it. I backed out and went back in, too, so that's why. These guys are on the session layer now. God damn it. Hold on. Whoops, wrong one. Turn off the session layer. Yeah, that's not good. So I can deal with certain things being on the session layer. The grass and stuff, that's fine. This, no, that's not okay. So let's replace these. Oh no, I wanted to grab the tank car. Let's place these, or replace these, as objects in the session layer. So, we'll be able to put them down and straighten them out and hopefully just slide them right on in. Hopefully they'll just lock right into place when we get it right. Like so. Nice. Hopefully that does, in fact, work. Nope. Nope. Come on. There we go. Let's test it by running this back and forth across it. Okay, it works. Cool. Same for you. Also cool. Double check. What? How did we end up back in the session layer? I had a feeling something was wrong. Something's wrong. I can feel it. Alright. Third time's a charm. Put the thing in there. Put the thing in here. Spin it until it lines up, more or less. Put this Right there. Okay. Next. We're getting good at this. Practice. Alright. Nope. Nope. Damn it, how come this one won't lock in? Oh, because it's 38.7. Oh. I guess it did lock in. I was really wondering why it wouldn't change. Alright, so that's fine. That's fine. Finally. Check one more time. It's the wrong thing. We are on the route layer. Alright. Lionhead Colliery Lumber. And then this is going to be Lionhead Oil. Oh. Lionhead Oil siding. Oops. I assume, yeah. Okay. Alright, cool beans. We got this area squared away, mostly. The other thing is, I want something here. I don't care if it's like a little signalman's shack or something, but I want something. Shack. What have we got for shack? Fishing shack. We got radio signal towers. That's not what I need. Cable splicer's shack. No. I want just like a flag stop. That's it. Like even smaller than the one that's downtown. Flag. Well, we have lots of flags. Now, how about a booth? Do we have anything called a booth? Yeah, we do. That's good. That's what I want. That is more like it. Okay. Let's continue what we were going to do. We need to do the grass over here so we can get the scenery work past the highway. And let's be swift about it. Meanwhile, let's look at our comments. You may have to, DT Cheney says, you may have to reduce something if you go to Trains 19, but you can get through. Besides, Trains 19 don't like my route on there anyway, so I'm doing a new one in 2019, and it going well so far. If you want to see it, I can show you. But my old route is staying in Tane. It too must work. I have to put it in for 19 standards. I assume you mean it's too much work to move it over to 19, so that's a shame. Wondering what work you have to put in. That's what I'm curious about most. Because that's what I'm going to be faced with. I'm definitely going to move up. I don't think I'm going to be stagnating in Tane once I get the opportunity. Which, make sure that I do not forget, if I start the next section in Tane, because it had slipped my mind again until now, make sure you guys yell at me in the comments and say, hey, you said you were supposed to go to 2019. That's what these episodes are supposed to be about now. Not you in Tane. Because who uses Tane anymore, honestly? Licks around the room. So, yeah, let's just get this done. This is not much highway, I don't think. So, we should have this done relatively quickly. Let's focus more on getting it done than how much we have to get done, and then that will probably make life easier. This is the kind of stuff where it doesn't have to look good from any angle. It just has to look... It has to look okay from the map, I guess. And it is not tough to be convincing on the map. When you see just giant patches of green on the map, it's like, oh yeah, that's just green area. Nobody questions it. The thing is, we have all those colors mixed into the forest there, which I don't even know if that's like a good thing, or an improvement, or whatever. But we have them. Ah, we got this road too. So that is annoying. Why did I make a detailed road system? It's not even that detailed. Just wait till I get to the interchanges. See how much of the highway system is built in the 50s. The thing is, even roads that would be relatively major by comparison were not that built up by this point in time. There really was not much in the way of divided highways, grade-separated highways, even by the 50s. Yes, there were some cities that had adopted that, but because people didn't rely on the car as much, it just didn't exist. As we move later, we're in a, what you might even call a transition period between the reign of the streetcar and rail travel, I guess, and the reign of the automobile. So, you're still going to see a lot of active streetcar, you're still going to see a lot of, not as much as there may have been, but you're still going to see a lot of basically unopposed railroad routes. Because the highways just aren't there yet. I'm certain that sometime in the history of Tolbrand, the future history of Tolbrand, we would see a major highway built along the coast, following the Gilson Eastern, past the swamp and everything, and not doing what this one does here. This highway was supposed to be a shortcut. The other thing is, it was supposed to, originally, in my original envisaging, it was supposed to avoid the swamp. But I ended up building it through the swamp and then going into the hills, which was stupid of me, because it ignored the whole reason why it doesn't just follow the whole way. Now we're basically just avoiding the river, is what we're doing. And it's going to head up and out this way. We're avoiding the valley there. Oh God. Alright. Well, we got this in. Let's get the bushes in. Yeah, that didn't take us that long. Ugh. Tired of it. Give me my, my grass tool. Let me learn that. Let's get into 2019 already. People are saying that it's limited, but I'm okay with that. I am only ever probably going to use a couple of kinds of grasses for this sort of thing. I don't, I mean, you guys know me. I stick to a couple things. Once I've got a good look, I nail it down and I keep it. Also, we don't have to go that far with the shrubberies. We can bring it back from there, just basically back to where it meets up with the road, and then you can just call it a day there. We can not do anything else up here for now. We can change gears, work elsewhere. Because boy, am I tired of grass, and I bet you guys are too. Unfortunately, the work we're going to do elsewhere is also consistent of grass, but at least it's different grass, and at least it's elsewhere. But this is a new dividing line, and then we just have this to go. And this, unless we have a multiple industry here or something, I don't think this has a name yet. No, it doesn't. Let's just add one. Oh. Yeah, we want multi-industry. We also want to move this guy out of the way for now. Get over there. Yeah, see, we've been putting in these sidings and then neglecting what they're for. The other thing is, like I said, if we don't have a name for this valley yet, it's up for being named. I certainly don't know what to call it. If you guys have suggestions, you're welcome to state them. Let's move this back now. And let me just double make sure that we didn't name these buildings. No, we didn't. Okay, so this is the valley. I don't know what valley it is, but it's the valley. And there's a farm here, I guess. It's going to be mostly tree-free, I would think. So we can keep that area cleared out for when we do decide to do that. Alright, let's go somewhere else. It's an hour in the video, let's change gears. So, I'll show you the work I did down here. It's really quite simple, and we can finish touching it up today. A lot of it was just getting along the shore with trees filling in these little gaps. This is something that needs texture, so we can figure that one out. And this needs texture. Okay, so we can continue along the shore with the sand instead of doing more grass right now. I'm more than happy to do sand instead. I did do a chunk of trees along the waterfront, some chunks of trees inside, you know, some of the stuff that we had to finish up before we could do the texturing along the tracks. And yeah, okay, so how far do we have to go? We can go over here. I don't know how to deal with these bays yet, anyway. I think there are examples that we can pull from. Of course, there are examples in real life that we can pull from, but there are examples out not in the wild, out in the rest of the map that maybe we can grab. Stuff near the swamp would be good. Because it's going to be swampy and marshy in there. It's not going to be pleasant. Once we do get through here, so the fact that it likes to, you're seeing how it's clinging to the existing texture. I don't know why that happens, and I really am not a fan. It makes it kind of difficult to do those big brushes well when you're up alongside another texture. Which means I've got to come in here with a small brush and then spend double the time fixing whatever this is. There we go. There we go. Alright. So, the next thing is, like I said, it's in there. We have all these little touch-up spots to do, but I think we'll do those with the same technique that we used up along the highway, because we're kind of far from anything, and it's not going to be too bad if it looks a little weird. And this is a little different. Maybe something like this will be in order with some grass on top of it. No, that's definitely weird. I don't like that. That's kind of okay, but it's a little too vibrant. This is all water. Not that we can't use it, but I would rather use... How about you? No, that looks terrible. Okay. This is not bad. This almost looks like a coating of algae. Which, I mean, would be weird for where it is, but not that weird. Come on. Yeah, now we just need to find a grass to put on top of it. It doesn't look great. I'll be honest, it doesn't. But it doesn't look terrible, and it fills the gap that we had. So I like the way this looks from the side, I don't like the way it looks from the top. But the other thing I don't want to do is go looking for more grasses. Man, you can feel the lethargy just pouring on, can't you? There's supposed to be trees in here. There are... Where's one of the areas that I did? Like over here or something? Oh, this was fine. I didn't do anything back this way. That little peninsula channel is still... It remains an enigma. This, though, this is something that I did do, because this area is ready to go now. It's almost ready to go. We gotta get these trees out of the way. But hey, this is... It comes down to it where it's like, okay, everything else is done, and then this just falls right in. It just clicks into place. Where you've got the terrain is already done, the texture is all done, you're just coming along, and you go, okay, so now the scenery is all done outside of the immediate track, and you say, okay, so we're just going to draw along the track this texture that we use for ballast, and then we're going to do a little bit of touch-ups here and there, and that's going to be it, and it's going to be done. It's so much of a light lift, relatively speaking. At least it feels like it. When you finally come back to something where you did a lot of the other work already, it's like, oh, I just had to do this one more little thing to get it squared away. That feels really good. I think so, anyway. Right there. Right there. There. There are trees all over the track, although we have to stop here because this area needs work too. So right here is a good point. Let's go grab our gravel texture. You know, it is, at the same time though, it's one piece at a time. We cannot come through and fix this whole thing at once. We have to do just a little bit, and then just a little bit more, and then just a little bit more. Compounded by the fact that we can't do copy-paste stuff on the videos. Or apparently we can, just the next video is going to crash. It's frustrating to have that happen. As you might expect. Like I said, I do want to dedicate the end of this video to wrapping up the farm areas, or figuring out what needs to go in the farm areas, in the sort of more heavily forested sections. That is for us to figure out. And there's probably going to be some copy-pasting in that. The other thing is, we have that chunk of copy-pastable stuff. Basically our version of the samples. Over in the big field near Mason's Landing. And that needs to go. I haven't gotten rid of it yet because I still feel like it could be useful. And I feel like it will be useful. But what I might do is just cut it and paste it somewhere else. Somewhere in the gray. Where it's not in the way. Because right now it just looks like a weird assemblage of trees in the middle of a field. And not like, oh, look at those trees. It's like, who planted trees in a grid here 50 years ago? It just looks strange. Okay. So we need to sort of over-deliver with the amount of gravel we're doing here because we know it's going to get cut back. This isn't ideal for what we're trying to do. Maybe I should have done it the other way around. But for now it will do. And as always, what matters is we are making forward progress. And importantly, this is going to be another section that is done. Another section of railroad track that's done. And that's, as you guys know, that's usually the last thing to happen. Which I think is kind of a good thing, because it means that we've capped it off with the thing that is arguably the most important. If we didn't work on that, we just worked on distant towns, then we wouldn't really have much of a railroad now, would we? We would have some tracks through gray area and some towns scattered around. Even if the towns are gorgeous, you didn't make a very good railroad. So, maybe that's something else to take home with you. That you need to find a good order to do everything in. You know, you're going to start with track. Or, at the very least, you're going to do it second. Once you've got the scenery in. Or not the scenery, the terrain work in. If you're like me, it's because you're trying to make your terrain seem super authentic. And in doing that, you are making terrain first to build around instead of the other way around. Lots of people, and I don't fault them for doing this because it's definitely the easier way to do it, they build the track first and they build the terrain up to it. Which is cool and all well and good, but then you have to purposefully create all of your cuts and all of your fills. Here, something like this, never would I bother with it. If I was building track first, this would be flat. You tend to use your track as an anchor point and not as just something that is trying to get through your landscape when you build the track first. It's good because then you have an anchor point, and you can't do something dumb like I did with Slop Ridge, and, oh, I just piled up a mountain here by accident. Let's figure out how to deal with this. But on the other hand, it means that your track will feel like the scenery was designed around it. It'll feel like it cuts through the earth too well. And that's one of those things I feel like a lot of people miss. I feel like it's too easy to fall into that trap of, well, I'll build the track and then I'll, make some scenery around it. The scenery will look good. And you can make the scenery look good, yeah. But unless you do meticulously plan, there probably isn't going to be the same variety and same density of cuts and fills as you would find on a normal railroad traversing the landscape that you've probably built. Now, that's the thing about trains. They like to be level. They don't like to change elevation that often. That's why a 1% grade sucks. It's really not that steep. If you've been on a road with a 1% grade, it's not that much to write home about. Been on a railroad with a 1% grade, especially if you're trying to drive the thing, oh boy, good luck. There's a lot of physics behind that, which I'm sure most of you know, but the consequence from an engineering point of view is that you have to get way more creative when you're building your railroad. You have to get way more creative with, okay, where are we going to put this track? Where are we going to put this, and to get from here to here, we're going to have to go through some stuff. We can't just go up and over everything. And if we go through some stuff, then we have all this dirt. We're going to have to go over some stuff, too, and that means we can use this dirt, but that's because we can't go down and back up. We can't just conform to the land. You can drive some pretty hilly roads that have elevation changes that go up and down and up and down. If you've ever been on I think it's the main turnpike heading into Portland, there's a section where it feels like you're just on a roller coaster. You're going, whoa, whoa, up and down immediately. It's just crest and then dip and then crest and then dip. And while that feels cool, it also is because, well, they were lazy when they built it, and they just followed the immediate contours, and they didn't decide to cut through it. I don't think that the way they built it has any actual detrimental effects on anything, but it's just worth pointing out that, yeah, these rolling hills that you have, they're really weird and kind of unusual. Because Maine is not the hilliest place, certainly southern or south, I guess it would be just southern Maine. Definitely not the hilliest of places. But they still managed to find a little roller coaster section on their highways. They probably could have straightened it out, but they didn't. God knows why. Anyway, let's finish filling in here, and then we'll go and get our dirt texture to round it off. Now, I can't remember what I've been doing for these cuts exactly. We'll have to find another one. So that's a fill. That's another fill. Here's your cut. We go over here, we can see just how things are looking exactly. Let's put some of this down before we click onto something else. But that area there is definitely going to be one where we're just going to fill it with grass. It is too flat for us to bother doing specific textures for cuts and fills. You know, this is supposed to be for relatively, not super steep, because then we would have the rocks poking out, but relatively moderate slopes. Short ones. If they're big enough, then you'd probably just put grass on them. If they're not big enough, then you've got this dirt embankment that has grass growing on it, but isn't, the underlying ground isn't just coated, saturated with grass. Alright. In reality, it doesn't really make much sense, because obviously, grass is grass and dirt is dirt. The grass grows on top of the dirt, and that's that. There isn't really much else to say. Sure, you can have different kinds of grass, but we're experimenting with different undergrasses, some of which are grass. So, yeah, that grass saturation might not happen quite the same way in real life. But that's bad. But there will be dirt under there. And in drains, if you put down dirt and then lay down like a grass spline on top of it, it just looks like dirt with grass on top of it. It doesn't look like a field of grass. And therein lies the problem, because fields of grass look like grass. They don't look like dirt with grass on top of it, and not unless you get really close can you see the dirt. So it presents a situation, a scenario, where you either don't make your base grass, which leads you to it looking weird, or you do make your base grass, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If you're talking from like a straight, this is what ground is made of, sort of point of view. Alright, there we go. Are we missing anything? Yeah, we are. Well, I'll tell you what. We can come through here with that tool again, with the dirt that I was intending to use, although no, we can't, damn it, because of this. Alright, well, we'll have to do that in the future, maybe. I don't know if I really want to spend all the time patching up these little holes. I know it's what I've been doing, and that's pretty consistent of me to continue doing it. But we can come through here with the dirt block, this, with just some regular old dirt, and it will look fine with all these little gaps. All right, it'll clear them right up. So, yeah. I guess I'm doing it anyway, because here we are. So, okay, I thought we were 30 minutes from the end. We're actually 40 minutes. I was like, oh, let's go play with copy-paste. But no, give it another 10 minutes or so, and then we can do that. So this is going to be one of these areas. The first thing we want to do is actually get rid of the shrubs, because they don't make sense here. If we were doing an island of dense trees, yeah, it would make a lot more sense, and part of me wanted to do that from the beginning, but it occurred to me that doesn't really go here in the middle of a field. We're going to have to add some more of the grass, but that's okay, because we're going to find out what's going to go here. Now, this is a good starting location, or a good starting whatever. Let's see, did we get... yeah. Let me make sure that we've got the rest of this field covered in grass. Looks like it. I don't think I would half grass it. I would probably finish the whole thing in one sitting. Okay. Let's check over down this end. Yeah, so we are fine. Turn off wireframe, head back here. This, I don't think, is a good example or a good location to do guinea pig testing. This is kind of less than ideal. It's small, it's got a hill, it's very round. So I'm just going to put my grass back and call it a day. I still think I'm going to use this grass because, well, it's a mainstay at this point. And secondly, I've already put it on a lot of these edges, so it makes sense for me to stick with it. This doesn't have any of those copy-paste trees. Probably because we added it as a field later. I'm going to need to fix that. Huh. Oh, this I did only do half of it because I stopped at the road. That's one of the things that I was working on. So, this is better. We need a texture. We need a ground texture. I'm thinking maybe this. It's got to be something that looks good covered in grass. It's also got to be something that looks good. Which this... I don't know. Let's cover it with grass and find out. Okay. It's growing on me. No, that wasn't a pun. Yeah, I think it provides a nice dark color. Next up is, what about trees? So, we know what trees go here. Now, I'm not going to start copy-pasting stuff right yet. But we know what trees go here. And I know we only are going to want a couple, so let's grab just one big leaf, a couple of red oaks like we have, and a couple of birch trees. Let's make it a very sparse forest, although actually we can probably get rid of one of those and just leave the birches. Now, that is a start. Now we need some stumps. Alright, so let's add a smattering of these. And then some littler one. Oh, that's not little one. Yeah, this was pretty dense, just like the rest of the forest was. And I also want one of the little whiter ones. I think we have little white ones. Yeah, these will represent the red oaks, I guess. We have 3 different kinds of trees, 3 different sizes of stump. And maybe I could cut back on these. So, whoops, let's get rid of that. Oh, I deleted that tree again. That one is just in my... I did it again. It's just in my line of fire, I guess. Okay, so now we have that. We have stumps. We have trees and grass, and I think that's honestly not bad. I could still do to get rid of some of the stumps. It seems a little too dense. Nope. 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 Damn it. I want to get rid of that one. There. But, yeah, there we go. Now I just need to fill this area in with texture, although I guess I don't have to. Hold on. Oop. Okay, so now we got our stumps, we got our block. Oh man, I want to start copy-pasting. I don't feel like doing anything else. Well, I guess we have to get the grass in. So let's do that. At least the edge grass. The rest of it, maybe we can just handle. Like, we can copy-paste the grass, which I almost never do. Because it has sometimes interesting and poor results. Alright. And there. And there we go. That's a nice thick layer of grass. Should I finish it around the other edge? Yeah, let's just do it while we're here. Let's just do it. There we go. All right. I don't know why I'm, like, hyping myself up for this. I am just thinking, my brain is going a million miles an hour, and none of it is relevant to under construction. So, I am just trying to get through this, and then I'm going to go find something to eat. Because that's what drives me. I want some food. Okay. Nice thick layer around the edge so that when we're copy-pasting, we don't overrun the layer, I guess, is what I'm thinking. It also means that this is going, you know, the goal of this is to make sure that we have very few areas left that are these gray blotches in the middle here. I still don't know what to do with the little peninsula straight, but we'll have to come back around to that. It is sort of, it's behind the front. We have it basically encircled. I don't know if that really helps us, because it doesn't. This isn't Hearts of Iron or anything. But the fact that it is all the way back here now means that it kind of sticks out. Not just from the coastline, but in general. And I did put sand on it in areas that I thought sand would be appropriate, but I'm not sure if that was a message to my future self that grass would be appropriate elsewhere. Other than that, we've just got a couple of relatively small patches of area that needs to be done with. Yeah, this one I think needs to be done with trees. Pretty sure anyway. Yeah, this one is trees. This one is also trees. And then if we move down this way, we have this field, which I think is almost done yet, except for the teardrop. And then this one, these are both not trees. These are both whatever we're working on right now. Same with that. And this is obviously that. We get on the other side here, and this is just a small area that needs some texturing, because that's the farmhouse and stuff. And then we have this, which this is the kind of thing we're working on, and then there are some patches of that back here, and then most of this is trees. We could honestly start moving along this edge here if we really wanted to, but I felt it was important to do this river in the middle first, so we'll have to come around to that. Alright, so we have half an hour left. Let's have some fun. First thing I want to do is not what we were just working on. I want to actually come back here. I want to grab some of these. Let's start with this one. I don't want height, but I want everything else. And I want to find a high point in here. Oh, there really isn't one, huh? Put that right on the edge. Right there, how about? Let's grab one of the small ones. I don't remember how I, organized these, but there was some sort of organization for them. It was like 3 of this type, 3 of this type. Oh yeah, that was the 1 of each kind of tree. So that was like the birch one. This is the red oak one. I think it's maybe enough for this field. Yeah, it's enough. Okay. So I think in the other field I'm going to put this big leaf maple. The big leaf, the maple kind. We're going to leave maybe all but 1 or 2 of those things over there. So let's put you right at the end here. It's right in the middle. And then we'll put another one because I would expect these to be relatively prominent. Right there. And now let's go back for seconds. Back for more. I'm wondering if we will still anger the gods by just doing a couple of trees at a time. We're not going to find out because we're going to be using the other thing to copy-paste all over the place, so oh well. But, you know, out of curiosity. Let's see, I want another one of these way down here. Right by the farmhouse. And then let's grab a couple more. They're right here. Let's do... I think I just did that one, so let's do this one. Because we seem to like big leaf maple in this field. God, that guy's loud. So I'm just going to call him Dan. He's not Dan. And then we'll do this. Here, this will be nice and cheeky. There. And that's good for that field. And now I think every field has the little flare thing. So that is excellent. Alright, so now we're going to take this. We're going to change mode so that we can add stuff. And we're going to paste this as best we can on top of itself. Alright, let's change that mode just for doing the edges. And then turn it back on. The other thing is, now we're pasting over the, look what we're pasting. We're pasting the effing blue strips that we brought with us by accident. That's not ideal. Although, let's see if we can steal this without the blue strips, then maybe we can start to make something out of it. We need to basically paste this until we have just an area with trees and stuff that we can take. So the biggest issue is the fact that the splines will not copy unless you are unless you have both ends. And that obviously presents a problem, because if you don't grab both ends, then you aren't taking any splines with you at all. And most of our splines are not... They're like end-to-end on this little chunk that we made. And so when we do this, we are not taking splines with us because we just grabbed the middle. This is the part where it gets real difficult with splines. I honestly... Maybe I shouldn't have done the splines. I want them there, but maybe I should have just done them myself. So, let's do something else real quick. Or not something else. Let's change our focus real quick. I don't want to take the splines. Let me just grab an area of relative sanity. There's nothing in here that's wrong. Paste that. Like I said, change the mode. So it's replacing the stuff instead of adding it this time. You'll notice it isn't replacing the splines because we have that turned off. This is my big secret from before that I use all the time when I'm doing stuff over tracks. If you don't have the spline thing checked, even if you have overwrite on, it won't overwrite the splines. Also important to note that it won't overwrite the terrain. That's the easier one to pick out. Obviously, we're not changing the terrain here. And this seems still too dense. So we're going to have to play with it more. Oops. We're also going to need to get in here with, well, grass splines and cover up all the holes. Because right now it's not looking good. The other thing we can do in an area like this to make it look even less uniform is just to copy around, or to shift around the trees, because when you move them, they change size. That miraculous property of speed trees makes it relatively easy for me to take something that looks very uniform and just get in there and just move a couple things around, and voila, it will be different. Yeah, so this is going to be... This is the equivalent of Fun Adventure Park for cows. It's Wally World. Okay, so let's finish... So I don't know what my next step is, honestly. I'm putting down grass. I would like to be able to copy-paste the grass, too. But either I'm not going to be able to grab enough of it because I'm making relatively long splines. Now I'm not, but before I was. I'm either making relatively long splines, or they're just going to be in awkward orientations, because I haven't made like a block of grass for us to use. I should have done it from the beginning, and I didn't. What I'm doing here is actually much closer to the way I built the area around the olive forestry, which is apt considering the amount of stumps here and the amount of stumps there. But I did a very similar thing with the grass there, and it was definitely annoying to work with, and I certainly haven't forgotten that. So, yeah. This area, well, it's doing well. It's doing well enough. There. Okay, let's grab a chunk in the middle and see what happens. Let's turn on paste track. Oh, there it goes. Well, we are close to the end of the episode, so as mandated, we will be ending the episode. This is all going to be spoken in the black because I don't know how much we lost. Oh well, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you next week. This is the Admiral, signing off. Sorry, Dean, I didn't get to your comment, actually. Let me do that real quick. Your comment was, Ellis, repeat after me. I do not need another Volvo. I do not need another... I'm sorry, I can't say it.